Hello, everyone. Juxtaposition here. Hope everyone has their juxtaposition coffee mug in hand. This handsome mug can be yours if you send some money to my P.O. box. Follow the link below. All right, so today's video will be entitled NATO's Sentinel Doctrine. NATO's Sentinel Doctrine. Let me say it a third time. NATO's Sentinel Doctrine. Now, you know, doctrine is a set of beliefs that a church or theological leaders or ministers of poppycock or organizations, satanic and criminal organizations like NATO and the United Nations, promulgate as being dogma. And dogma and doctrine go together. It's a set of false beliefs that are foisted upon the public as being valid and truthful. All right, so NATO has a war doctrine. It is based upon a sentinel system. And if you don't know what that means, sentinel is a guard at the gate, gatekeeping, right? It's based upon the idea of posting a sentry at the gate. You know, like the Vatican city-state, right? Like the Bank of Vatican is protected by Swiss guards, at least 113 Swiss guards wearing grenadier clown suits. This is a guard at the gate, known as keeping the watch. Remember Jimi Hendrix sang that song, All Along the Watchtower? All along the watchtower, there were sentries posted 24/7 surveilling the area outside the wall and inside the wall to make sure no one was making a jailbreak, right? Because the wall serves two purposes. The main purpose is to keep the prisoners imprisoned. That's the number one purpose of building a wall. So when Trump talks about building a wall along the Mexican border, he's talking about imprisoning all the Americans who are homeless and broke, who may try to flee to a higher quality of living in Mexico. That's what Trump is talking about. The clueless Donald Trump, who only marries models. He cannot actually marry a woman who is anything other than a figurine. He's had 3 marriages to models. I think they were all arranged marriages because I don't think Donald Trump could actually score a date in real life. Anyway, the other idea is you keep your enemy out. This is the the barbarians at the gate principle, that the enemy is going to storm the Bastille. That's the lesser objective of what's called the Sentinel concept. Anyway, to oversimplify what I'm talking about here is you see the bridge behind me. That leads across to San Francisco behind my head there. And at the San Francisco anchorage, which is the southern anchorage of the Golden Gate Bridge, which symbolizes Geneva global governance, if you didn't know, and the gold rush, right? And the gold rush was discovered by Johann Sutter, a Swiss national. So the gold rush was a Swiss bank operation. The Golden Gate Bridge is a Swiss bank financed operation. And on the southern anchorage, you will find the Presidio Army Base, which is a Swiss military operation where they ran hundreds of nefarious criminal activities for centuries. Since 1776, there's been criminal activities going on the south anchorage of the Golden Gate Bridge, even before the bridge was constructed, during the 1930s, when we had a depression and no credit. On the north anchorage of the bridge, right below this little rock pile here, in the Marin County area, you'll have Fort Cronkite, which is also a NATO military base. So essentially, at the north anchorage of the Golden Gate Bridge and at the southern anchorage of the Golden Gate Bridge, you will find NATO bases on both ends. That's called gatekeeping. And the Golden Gate Bridge represents a secured perimeter corridor. And there is a Sentinel guard posted at both sides of this twin tower bridge. Here's the other tower back there. So it's a twin tower, twin NATO base, Golden Gate corridor security program. And this bridge symbolizes your neighborhood, which is called a strategic hamlet. You live in a strategic hamlet. You may be rural, it may be urban, but I guarantee you, even within the urban areas, they have subcategories of hamlets based upon zip codes or other geofencing metrics. All right, the Sentinel system is about 24/7 surveillance. It's about the guard keeping the watch, the NATO soldier keeping the watch on a shift, and you have 3 8-hour shifts of guards mindlessly staring at, looking for any ambient disruption. Ambient. The system is based upon ambient full spectrum dominance. Ambient means light, movement, sound, sight. If you see anything move, if you hear anything move, if you feel a reverberation of something moving, your eyes need to lock on to those coordinates. All right, so you know that with the CubeSats above and the drones, helicopters, jet airplanes, turboprops flying relentlessly all around the world in every city, from Milan to Istanbul to Rome to Cairo to France to Paris to Monaco to London to Cambridge to Manhattan, New York, to Chicago, to Montreal, to Toronto, Canada, to San Francisco, to Los Angeles. We have continuous 24/7 surveillance using the ambient tools of the day. And of course, the tools of today are flock cameras, ring cameras, smart meters, toilet flushing detected by your smart meter, drones, unmanned aerial vehicles, right? UAVs, right? And of course, we have an intelligence system who trace, tracks, and targets every breathing, movable, or body area network electronic creature on the planet, from bunny rabbits to squirrels, to dogs and cats, to birds that fly, to ducks that are amphibious, to the clueless human beings who volunteer for COVID shots, Omicron variants, boosters, flu shots, monkeypox, and or bird flu inoculations, known as trace, track, and targeting your dumbass to the cloud, tethering you to the cloud as if you were a farm animal. Because the program that I'm referring to, the Sentinel Doctrine program, the belief system, is that if you babysit every living creature on the planet 24/7, then they cannot engage in surprise sneak attacks against the authority. Swiss bank authority is what I'm talking about. And these Sentinel guards are under a code of conduct known as Honor Code God Country, which are clueless codes of conduct. It's obedience and omerta secrecy. Omerta secrecy and a code of obedience are all that is required to be a member of the French Foreign Legion, NATO forces, which includes the U.S. Marines, the Army, the Air Force, the Space Force, the Marines, the intelligence services, which permeate every military unit, including your city police, metro police, and county sheriffs, who all run fusion centers and all have intelligence units within all policing, because policing is 100% controlled by NATO out of Geneva, Switzerland, in the House of Peace, which wages war 24/7. We follow orders or people die. It's just that simple. So essentially, you got a farm tagging program where you chip all your livestock. Your livestock is cattle or chattel, cows, meat cows, or dairy cows, milk cows. Milk cows or meat cows. They are chipped or tagged on their ear, just like all the human beings are, just like the lambs, the lost lambs, the lambs that are herded around in an open air prison, the chickens that are penned up for the most part, or free range chickens, turkeys, domestic food of baby calves turned into veal, right? We have that. And we have bugs. Klaus Schwab wants you to eat bugs because by 2030, you'll own nothing and be miserable. So bugs will be on the dinner. That's what's for dinner, bugs. All right. So part of the Sentinel system to trace, track, and target and tether you to the cloud 24/7 so that you don't rise up like an anarchist against fascist, totalitarian techno enslavement is to use farm management systems to GPS track all the farm property on the plantation. Them's that pick cotton are soon forgotten. So you assign a QR code to every slave on the reservation, thus tethering you to the cloud. Now, it goes beyond just GPS tracking, which is what we do to the cows. We just GPS track them. We don't care what they think, and we don't care what they moo. We only care where they're at so that when we want to make some money and process them into hamburger, we can find that wayward cow without having to rely on a cowboy. You can't have wranglers wrangling all the time when you have a GPS tracking system. Okay, so this system I'm referring to, which is a Sentinel system based upon the concept of babysitting you 24/7, is based upon three techniques. One is called our Human Wireless Body Area Network, the Y-band, WBAN, Wireless Body Area Network. Every single human being has one. If your heart is beating and your brain is pulsing, you have a Y-band. Now, if you're dead and your heart is stopped, then you do not have a signal. You're just debris laying there on the side of the road. You're just debris. So nobody cares about you because you put out no electrical signal. If you're dead, you have no Y-band. But if you do, guess what? Our Sentinel ambient triggered system, which is triggered on light, sound, pulsing, magnetic resonance, will pick up your Y-band, whether you're vaccinated, whether you're carrying a mobile phone, whether you have a Fitbit or smartwatch or smart glasses, matters not. You will still be tracked on a radar recognition system as being an entity with an electrical pulse. Number two, this is important, listen up, M-band, Medical Body Area Network. This takes the tethering to the cloud, which is the Internet of Everything, and humans are part of the IoE, which includes flock cameras, smart meters, LED streetlights, sensors, the smart dust in the polluted sky, mesogens, MEMS, MEMS, microelectronic mechanical sensors or system sensors in the sky. Those are sensors which pick up ambient trace, track, and targeting information, relay it to the HAL 9000, and voila, you appear on a radar screen with a keyboard commando, probably age 24 to 27, who gets paid $400,000 a year to babysit people because they are part of a Sentinel surveillance system, which is part of the war doctrine of NATO, which is all fundamentally based upon the pillars of Sentinel surveillance, trace, track, and targeting. So the medical body area network tethers you to the cloud, but then looks at your heart rate, your blood pressure, your anxiety level, your excitement, if your heart rate is high, and it transfers that information to a precision medicine series of algorithms. That's important if they want to issue the kill command. They do need to understand where you are GPS tracking wise. If you're in your bedroom or you're out on a soccer field or you're riding your bicycle or if you're up in the Alps, they want to know if a heart attack would be a plausible course of manic episode or just having a heart attack while you are in bed asleep alone. Then the third technique within trace, track, and targeting Sentinel system is what's called HARR, Harr. HARR. This is another DARPA created satanic trace, track, and targeting system. HARR, Human Activity Recognition Radar. Human Activity Recognition Radar. HARR, Harr, DARPA. This measures the body metrics. For example, whether you're sitting or standing, whether you're walking or running, the gait, your personalized method of walking or mobilizing. How do you transfer yourself via car, motorcycle, bicycle? Do you do it walking or running? Your gait, your cadence, how many revolutions per second or per minute do you pedal? Typically, you want to pedal 100 RPM average. So you can do the math on that. There's also biometrics, iris recognition, eyeball recognition, okay? Palm print recognition when you go to check out at your Amazonian Whole Foods store, okay? Then we have fingerprint, thumbprint, index fingerprint, right? These are all things introduced by the TSA at your local port authority, airports, all right? Or you want to go on a cruise to Alaska, you're going to have to go through a biometric system. If you want to travel in Europe, you're going to have to deal with the biometric readers for eyeball recognition, iris, fingerprint, thumbprint, and geofenced animal tagging, QR coding. Not to mention your vax status, your passport vaccination status will be tied to your money system soon. They're going to tie your passport travel status to your vaccine status to your bank account status. That's called programmable money. That's a fourth system. I'm not going to get into it right now. But the three systems having to do with tracing the human husbandry chattel on the open air reservation are, number one, the wireless body area network, which tethers you to the cloud and picks up a signal in the ambient domain that is ubiquitous now, fully deployed with ring cameras, flock cameras, and drones and smart dust all over the place. Number two is your medical body area network, also expressed as precision medicine, personalized medicine, e-medicine, e-pharmacy, to trace, track, and target your blood pressure, your heart rate, your excitement or anxiety level, your state of stress, if any. Number three is HARR, Human Activity Radar Recognition, to tag you, customized QR code tagging based upon how you walk or run or pedal a bicycle, that they have a dossier on your gait and cadence, right? Now, when you cross-correlate those three systems, then you have a real ID verification. In other words, you don't have to go down to your driver's license, Department of Motor Vehicles, to get a facial recognition eyeball real ID. I know they want you to believe that that's necessary. Do you know they can positively real ID you without a driver's license, without a passport, because of human activity recognition, because of geofencing you to where you sleep at night, to where your bank statements are mailed, that they can positively identify you based on your bank account, your mailing address, where you sleep, your gait, your eyeball recognition, and precision medicine, blood pressure, anxiety level, and they have you tethered to the cloud 24/7. Even if you're not vaccinated, even if you don't own a cell phone or a mobile phone, even if you don't have a television or a smart refrigerator or a smart meter, like you're living in a creek bed somewhere, right? They can ID you being a homeless guy in a creek bed with no smart devices. So I don't want anyone to get the impression that because you're a former Marine and you own half a dozen AR-15 semi-automatic rifles, that you're going to go rogue off grid, and you're going to live in an independent life. You're delusional. If you're a Marine, active or retired, and you think that owning an AR-15 rifle or rocket-propelled grenades, launchers, and ammo, or that you make your own ammo in your work shed, you've lost your mind. You are a clueless clown. You have no idea how the world works. Okay. Every airbase in the world is controlled by NATO. Every port authority, every railroad track, every secondary road, every primary road, every interstate highway, every canal, lake, reservoir, river, bay, estuary is under Swiss maritime law. That includes the United States Marines, the Navy SEALs. That includes the Navy, all navies of the world, all armies of the world, all infantry, all black ops, black water, French Foreign Legion, CIA operatives in field, controls every food presentation, every farm presentation in the world is controlled under maritime law and global governance out of Geneva Global Governance, GGG. And if you don't believe me, it means you're delusional. If you pledge your allegiance to a 13-stripe flag and you blow off explosives on the 4th of July, you're an idiot. You're completely retarded. You are sold out. In other words, Klaus Schwab owns you. Let's do a little kaleidoscope because people get tired of hearing my voice, I'm sure. And it would be more fascinating to watch the background pictures, don't you think? Why don't we do that? Now, of course, isn't that just ducky? Hello, everyone. Here's a kaleidoscope of photographs. Let me get myself out of the picture here. These are 3 SR-71 planes that the United States Air Force wants to think that they own, and they want you to believe that the Air Force owns these planes. These planes are owned by NATO and Geneva Global Governance, and they are operated by Lockheed Martin Corporation. They've upgraded these planes to an SR-72 model, which have more functionality. These are terrorist planes. They exist, number one, to blow out windows in churches and terrorize office buildings in different places throughout the world, which can include Malibu, California. These planes have been known to throw sonic booms flying east to west along the shoreline of Malibu with its southern exposure and its polluted skies with chemtrails and aluminum messagens, smart dust, MIMS. These planes fly in MIMS, and they fly out of Palmdale, which is a Lockheed Martin airport. This photograph was taken in Palmdale. If you don't know where that is, it's in the Mojave Desert. Go check it out. Look at a map. Find out where Area 51 is. Area 52, that's in the Las Vegas. Nellis NATO base test facility in Nevada. However, it does cross over into 29 Palms and Death Valley. So even though Area 51 and Area 52 are in Nevada, the fact is that the airplanes and helicopters and Predator drones that are flown out of Area 51 and 52 and S6 labs run by Northrop and Boeing and General Dynamics, those airplanes or aircrafts travel west into the Mojave Desert and Death Valley, which Death Valley is significantly larger. It's talking about 400,000 acres of space that NATO, Switzerland, uses to perfect terrorist weapons. These are terrorist weapons. And yes, they have a camera on them, okay? But they're mainly designed to scare the hell out of people, to pacify and control people. That's their purpose. And I know a SR-71 pilot who has set speed records in these planes. Okay, this is Erin Valente. She was murdered at age 33 in Almaden, San Jose, city of San Jose, on October 7th, 2019. She died of a manic episode. Her body was then staged and dumped at 6615 Bose Lane. She had her back facing the house with the address of 666. 6615 is the 666. When you turn your back to a 666 mark of the beast, you invert it into meta dead. 999 is meta dead. Erin Valente was dead. It took 4 months later, and the medical examiner of Santa Clara County declared cause of death as manic episode, age 33. Erin Valente, she was working for Tinker Ventures as a subcontractor for Control Labs and Facebook. She was working on computer to brain interface for mobile devices. Now, before you jump to the wrong conclusions and think that she was working on applications for mobile phones, you better think again, because the future of the world is not based on mobile devices. You are a mobile device. I just finished telling you that the Sentinel system of NATO is based on tethering all living creatures to the cloud 24/7. It doesn't say anything based on cell phone use. Bunny rabbits and squirrels and grizzly bears, they don't carry cell phones, but they will be traced and targeted, just like all the cows on the farm, just like all the clueless clowns in your neighborhood are under neighborhood watch programs, which is a fusion center, trace, track, and targeting within a strategic hamlet. But I told you every human has a Y-band and a medical body area network, and they have a human activity recognition radar system, all three in play. That's what Erin Valente was working on. She was working on tethering humans to the cloud, and they murdered her because apparently she figured out that it's all a game. It's a thought experiment. We're in the Matrix. That's the purpose of my show. It's really based upon the murder of Erin Valente, which very few people believe she was murdered. But I do, and I'm doing videos about it. This is a flock camera. You'll find these in more and more places, especially houses of worship, churches. Yes, churches are number one, like the Notre Dame de Paris in Paris. They have flock cameras there. They have LED lights. They have Masonic marble floors, checkerboard, black and white, right? Because the Notre Dame de Paris, Our Lady of Paris, is a military surveillance operation which has deployed sound weapons using the twin bell towers and light photonic energy systems known as the LED chandeliers and magnetic resonance, which will bounce off the acoustics of the marble floors. This all under the tutelage here of Klaus Schwab, who has an electrical engineering degree. He's the knucklehead that was attributed to found the World Economic Forum back in 1973, I believe. And this man will say that you'll be eating bugs by 2030. Then we have an Israeli national. This gentleman's name is Chaim Witz. I guess you know him as Gene Simmons, the bass player of Kiss. This odious, long-tongue, satanic Jewish man is actually born outside of Jerusalem in the phony, fake, pseudo state of Israel. Because, of course, you know, there is no Israel. There's Switzerland, and there's only Switzerland. Don't get offended. There's no United States of America either. That's a psyops, just like Switzerland. Switzerland created Israel, and Switzerland created the 13 colonies of the United States. And it was Switzerland who discovered gold in California, right? Don't get mad at me. Why don't you get mad at Pope John Paul I? He wanted to audit the Bank of Vatican, which, in case you didn't know, is a Swiss branch bank in the city-state of Rome called Vatican Bank, also known as the Institute for Religious Studies and or Religious Works. The Institute for Religious Works. And the clueless comedy Smiling Pope, he was known as the Smiling Pope. He was the Pope for 33 frigging days, 33 papal days. His papacy ended on the 33rd day, just like Erin Valente's life ended at age 33. Pope John Paul's papacy ended 33 days into his popedom. He was killed at age 65 in his sleep after drinking I believe he drank a cyanide-laced cup of tea. Agenda 2030 of Geneva, Switzerland, United Nations is brought to you under the cover name of Sustainable Development Goals. This is how they've concealed the truth about Agenda 2030, which is about trace, track, and targeting all humans like they're farm animals to be harvested upon their age, expiration, or utility value. There's a number of metrics. Once you roll out a zero trust architecture system, which is based on security clearances and obedience and compliance with the rules of your prison, your rules of your strategic hamlet. Your strategic hamlet is a jail. It's a form of a detention camp with a Golden Gate sentries posted at the corridors. You may not see them, but they're there. If you go to Europe, you're more familiar with the guards at the gate between the various countries like Switzerland and France. You'll see there's custom gatekeeping going on. You see more and more of that in the fake United States of America. Donald Trump's already signed a bill to bring back conscription. The draft is coming back on January 1st, 2027. It'll be mandatory conscription. If you don't have a job, if you're unemployed and you're not a full-time student, it'll be the same policy it was in 1966 with the Vietnam War and Lyndon Baines Johnson. We'll have the same policy we had back then with the Vietnam War. It's the same policy of Israel. It's the same policy of Switzerland. You do know that there is no Israel. So, of course, it makes sense that Israel would adopt the same principles as Geneva, Switzerland, which is mandatory military service from age 18 to 26 is mandatory. And that's mandatory in Israel, and it's going to be mandatory in the United States, effective in a few months, January 1st, 2027. It's all going to come underneath the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, which is zero carbon footprint. But the only way you can get to zero carbon is to terminate the military, because the military uses over 50% of all the energy in the world. And they're rolling out data centers, which is going to consume more energy. All right, here's the biggest clown in the show. This is Rand Paul. He's an ophthalmologist, eye doctor, who personally is blind as a bat. He can't see, he can't hear. Helen Keller is more astute than Rand Paul. Stevie Wonder has better vision than Rand Paul. Rand Paul is a clueless clown in the clown show. He and Anthony Fauci have a room over at the Motel 6. They're buds. They're in the same perverted cult. Rand Paul and Anthony Fauci are the same person. They actually have rubber masks they can interchange. There's not a millimeter worth of difference between this guy standing in front of a 13-stripe Swiss colonial flag and Anthony Fauci. Neither knows anything about COVID. They have no idea what Havana syndrome is. They don't know what smart dust is. They don't know what CRISPR therapeutics is. They don't know who Jennifer Ann Doudna is. They don't know what Cas9 weapon system is out of Zug, Switzerland. They don't know jack about molecular engineering, which is the COVID hoax. It has nothing to do with a flu virus. It has everything to do with molecular engineering. So no one should take Rand Paul seriously as a human being. He's a cockroach, and he should be treated as such. Here's the face of COVID right here. This is the face of COVID. And she has nothing to do with COVID because she has everything to do with molecular engineering, which is what COVID really is. Under the guise of precision medicine, which is molecular engineering, it's code for molecular engineering, and smart dust, deployment of 60 terahertz submillimeter waves over a 7G mesh, ubiquitous mesh system, which is part of Sentinel systems, we have Jennifer Doudna. This is Jennifer Doudna. She is the chancellor of biomedicine at UC Berkeley. She is not a medical doctor. She has a PhD in chemistry. She is not a medical doctor. She does not see patients, but she has the title of biomedicine at a University of California campus, Berkeley. She lords over CRISPR Therapeutics, which offices are in Zug, Switzerland, near Liechtenstein and Davos and Zurich. She's halfway between Zurich and Davos. Along the highway, you'll come to Zug, home to cryptocurrency, central bank digital currency, and Frankenstein monstering, gene editing, monkeying around with your cellular structure, known as molecular engineering. This person is the Charlie Manson. This is the Lee Harvey Oswald. This is the 9/11 Osama bin Laden of COVID right here. And she lives in Berkeley she lives off of Ashby Avenue and the Warren Freeway, Highway 13. She's 1 block off Highway 13, Unity Amongst Masons. Not far from the Pete's Coffee and the Claremont Hotel. If you wanted to Google around Berkeley, California, on Ashby Avenue, at and around Claremont Avenue, you will find Jennifer Doudna going down there to get a latte. All right. This is Natalie Wood. She was murdered in November 28th, 1981, in Santa Catalina Estuary at Santa Catalina Island. She, at the time, was working with Christopher Walken, who was with her when she died. This is Robert Wagner. He was with her when she was murdered. Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken were with Natalie Wood when she drowned in 53-degree temperature, freezing water on November 28th, on or around 11:15 to 11:20 p.m. in pitch darkness. She doesn't swim. She does not know how to swim. She was not wearing a life jacket, and they tossed her into the water. Christopher Walken knows all about it, and he's not talking. Robert Wagner knows all about it, and he's not talking either. Anyway, you should know that Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood were working on a Hollywood film entitled Brainstorm, which was about computer-to-brain interface, not brain to computer, computer to brain. That's the same thing. That's the same thing that Erin Valente was working on, right? Erin Valente was working on computer-to-brain interface, and she was murdered at age 33. And Natalie Wood was doing a film to celebrate computer-to-brain interface entitled Brainstorm, and she was murdered at age 43. She was 10 years older than Erin Valente, right? Erin Valente, whose parents live in Rochester, New York, and she was living in Salt Lake City in Mormontown, right, which is a military operation. Here's Jennifer Doudna. She lives in Berkeley, California. She is the chancellor of biomedicine under Frankenstein Monster. Her offices are in Zug, Switzerland, and in London, England, in Boston, Massachusetts, and in Mission Bay, San Francisco, and UC Berkeley, 2151 Berkeley Way. There is the Doudna Lab, and there's also the Innovative Genomic Institute run by her second husband, and she's involved in the founding of Innovative Genomic Institute. It has to do with injuring and damaging your cellular DNA structure. And just as was predicted by Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood back in 1981, where they drowned her deliberately on purpose. Anyway, that's the world in which we're living here, people. That's the world in which we live. And it's an ugly world, just like Gene Simmons. He's ugly too, right? He's ugly. All right, that's my video for today. I'm trying to tell you that NATO has a war doctrine. If you parse it together, you'll find it reads as follows: Netcentric cognitive neuroscience electronic warfare. That's the bottom line. The Sentinel system works on Netcentric, means trace, track, and targeting you 24/7, having a guard on the watch, spying on you 24/7, and checking your heart rate, your pulse rate, your blood pressure, your gait, your eyeball recognition, your real ID verified. That way they can kill you on command and push a button on you, just like they do to take a cow and turn it into hamburger, just like they take a cow and turn it into milk cartons, right? NATO is a fraud. NATO is the enemy. And all the armed forces who are under supreme NATO command, like the United States Marines, like the Navy, like the Army, like Space Force, they're all enemies. Those are enemies of the people. Our men and women in uniform, they're all enemies. But remember, for every uniformed man and woman who's basically a criminal, besides them, there's 100 private contractors who support the Navy and the Marines. Brown and Root, aka Halliburton, Bechtel, the Bin Laden family construction company, Facebook, NVIDIA, the banks on Sand Hill Road, Sequoia Capital, Kleiner Perkins, KKR Excel, KKR, Jim Breyer, Breyer Capital, Ben Horowitz, Mark Andreessen, okay, Lorraine Powell Jobs. Those are all people building out prison systems for techno enslavement into the year 2030 to build smart LA, which means you can't get on a train or a bus without a real ID, verified, eyeball recognition, palm print. They won't care so much about your vaccines because they have now deployed enough flock cameras and eyeball readers that they can trace, track, and target you without vaccination. Hope you enjoyed my video. Do like and share it. You know I am heavily shadow banned. Take care now. Bye-bye.